Hey everyone, and welcome back to Crypto Daily. We're here with Bitget and Gracy Chen, who is the managing director there. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the significant events like the ETFs happening, Bitget's latest initiative, the Exchanges Protection Fund reaching an all-time high. We're going to dive into all of that, and we're also going to talk a little bit about Blockchain for Her, which is a new initiative that you announced in January in 2024 of this year at the World Economic Forum. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and that is probably going to be one of the big focuses here. We've read up on the initiative, and as we understand it, it's all about promoting gender diversity and inclusivity in the blockchain sector. And we know that you made a $10 million investment to support women's welfare projects. So that's really, really amazing to see. And I think it's a great place for us to start, where if you could tell us a little bit more about the goal behind Blockchain for Her and what inspired Bitget to launch this initiative.
Sure. Happy to dive into the topics.
Awesome. So do you want to start off just by telling us a little bit more about Blockchain for Her and why you actually started the initiative?
So Blockchain for Her, just according to the name, obviously we want to promote gender diversity and inclusivity in the blockchain industry. I think this is largely driven by the fact, number one, our blockchain industry has this bro culture. It's more male dominated. And number two, my personal experience in terms of when I was younger in my career, there were certain period of time that I faced lots of gender sort of discrimination. The reason that I'm a female building a tech firm actually gave me lots of disadvantage, especially like there's a story like when I was raising funds for my first startup, I approached the VC and he said, we like you, Gracie, but we don't invest in females who got married but didn't have kids. And that was my stage at that time. So that really feels like a slap in the face, although that's just an analogy. But basically that made me think why in that case that they don't want to invest in females, especially so-called females who are married but hadn't had the kid. I guess the so-called family reason or the theory or assumption that a lady, once she had a kid, her career can be dramatically impacted. I think that's a big assumption and it's a wrong assumption. So we want to address issues like this in order to highlight a targeted efforts to support and empower women in the blockchain space. And actually, before joining Bitget, I've started something similar already, which I started this initiative called She Shapes under the World Economic Forum Global Shapers community, where we did that like 4 years ago. I just stepped down recently, actually just in February this year, from the committee. Because I'm too occupied by my work at Bitget. But basically, I have a strong passion for empowering women since very young, largely due to my personal experience.
Yeah, that's amazing. You're clearly a huge component of that space even before you're working with Bitget. So gender disparity does exist, whether people believe it or not. And how did Bitget identify that this was an important initiative that was necessary for the space?
So we did some study. We had some statistics around, for example, our study that revealed that there were very limited gender diversity in the blockchain, especially funding market. For example, female-led project startups only secured a mere 6% of the total funding. And also, if we look at the VCs, all the major VC GPs are guys, except for Katie Hum. She is a great role model that in my opinion, like she was a partner at A16Z. She was also a board member at Coinbase. I think she started her own fund, which is called Hong Capital, and that's a 1.5 billion fundraise earlier last year. I don't know if she raised another fund maybe this year or so, but that's the last time I read about her. Anyway, she was the very few female VCs in our space, and I want to see more VC partners, more project founders being females. And I think there is something we can do in terms of to combat this gender disparity and recognize that any sort of economy, especially given that that blockchain or cryptocurrency. We are a very forward-thinking and global economy or global community, and we should definitely restrict the opportunities and like come back to the discrimination based on gender.
Yeah, absolutely. And could you elaborate a little bit more on some of the specifics on how Bitget plans to approach this project and some of the key initiatives that you're aimed at supporting?
Yes, so we have 3 initiatives, actually probably 4, but here are 3 that I can remember. Number 1 is we have an incubation project or program and pitching competition targeting to the female entrepreneurs. So actually just this weekend, during East Denver, we've had a pitching competition, and that's a collaboration with Killer Whales. That's a crypto reality show that I was a judge at. So I invited Bitget and also Foresight Ventures, which is a fund that we have invested in, as well as Killer Whales, to have this pitching competition. But in the future, we want to target similar kind of pitching competition to female only, where we can have comprehensive support and mentorship and resources tailored to the female entrepreneurs and empower them to navigate this blockchain industry, which is definitely hard, but also very, very exciting, especially like today we see Bitcoin approaching all-time high and then drop down for like 10%. It's a very volatile market, as it is always, but to navigate a market like this, there are financial component. There's also technological component. You need to be a manager, a leader, as well as a forward thinker. So that's really hard, and we want to empower females to do that. And the second one, we also have something we call Women in Blockchain Summit Awards, where we will recognize some outstanding achievements of women in the blockchain space and give them award. And we also have an ambassador program. So I invited, not just me, but my team together, we invited some industry leaders to become ambassadors for Blockchain for Her program. Actually, I'm going to publish or announce a few ambassador this week that we will have a Twitter space, I think on 8th of March, which is the International Women's Day. I have 3 ambassadors joining me in the Twitter space where we talk about gender diversity. But those are great examples. What I mean by, like, previously we were talking about having more female role models in this space, right? So these are some role models that I have. Like one of them built a layer 2 project. She was also CEO of another crypto exchange before joining this firm, or before starting this firm. And another lady, Tess, she started her own VC. They backed lots of important projects such as Shrapnel, such as even Animoca brands. I actually got to know Yasui much more through Tess. And then another lady, she was also a Killer Whale judge. She started Tekken, which is a auditing firm based in Europe. Anyway, so these are all great project founders in the space that I think worth being role model, and also they participated as our ambassador.
Changing things up a little bit, talking about Bitget's protection funds. So I understand that they're now at an all-time high, valued at about $300 million. So that's very, very impressive to see. Can you take us a little bit through the protection fund and its purpose and what that's all about?
Okay. So we started the protection fund the year that I joined the firm. I think summer, probably fall of 2022. And that was before FTX collapse.
Right.
At that time, we've already recognized the importance of setting up this sort of like similar to insurance kind of fund in order to have our users have a clearer picture of, first of all, they are insured and secured, even if there's sort of like hacking or unstable system. But basically, the protection fund was established at that time. We had it to be 200 mil when it was first established. After FTX collapse, more and more people demand exchanges to be more transparent, to have more security and protections around their own assets, especially not commingling, things like that, which we've always stick to that rule. But having the protection fund make people know that this is in open wallets. We have like firstly, it started off as in 4 wallets. Right now, it should have maybe 8 wallets, but they are in open wallet. Our users can go to those wallet addresses and see if the money are there or not, whether it's in which cryptocurrency it is. But our protection fund are only in 3 cryptocurrencies: Bitcoin, USDT, and USDC. Well, the recent increase in the protection fund is largely due to the the price increase of Bitcoin. And that's normal. I guess everyone who holds Bitcoin, we see our portfolio growing recently. I'm definitely very happy about that. But most importantly, I think Bitcoin and also all the cryptocurrencies still has lots of potential. Even if right now it's traded maybe 65,000 as we are having this conversation around there. It just reached its all-time high today. But I think it's very likely that the price could double or even triple. I'm more on the conservative side, so I'll stay with double. But the growth of the fund, particularly during the period where Bitcoin price surge, also demonstrate our effort to maintain stability and liquidity against the external factors. And we have this fund, and people should be rest assured that your money are well protected.
That's very important, especially as you mentioned with like FTX and everything that happened there. So it's great to see that you guys are, putting a lot of prioritization towards your protection fund and making sure that is well funded. So what happened since we last spoke where Bitget decided to up its protection fund by such a large margin? I know you said that was partially due to Bitcoin's price increase, but why did the sum increase so dramatically?
I think it's also because we actually have more users. I'm not sure if we did that announcement yet from the PR sense, but we actually just or nearly reached about 25 million users in total. And that increased from the number 8 million when I joined the firm or like later that year to like 20 million last year in 23, and now we're reaching 25 million. Maybe not there yet if we haven't done the investment, but I'm monitoring the number, and we are really close. So with the increase of number of users, we want to increase our fund a little bit. And also we pledge to have this fund at least that there is a floor of 300 million for the upcoming 3 years since it's instrument. Because even if Bitcoin price goes down, we want to pledge in more money so that our users can rest assured that you can always see that the protection fund, again, they are all in open wallets. We want our users to, we want to be more transparent, basically.
Yeah, and that's very important, especially in the space today. Is there a cap at all, or do you have plans to continue increasing the amount in the fund?
That's where we feel comfortable right now. But if we see more increase of our users, or if we see more demand of increasing this fund, we might do that. But that's not something that's heavily discussed. And I think our users right now are pretty comfortable with what we have. And by the way, this is probably like second or third largest protection fund in the industry among all exchanges already. I think Binance has the largest protection fund, which they call SAFU, SAFU. It was 1 billion, maybe later they increased it to 2 billion. But given their user amount and the trading volume, our fund is also quite meaningful already because it's nearly 500 mil. If you look at the ratio in terms of trading volume versus the protection fund, this is probably very big at Bitget already. And 500 mil is probably the second largest or the third largest biggest protection fund.
That's very impressive. And yeah, it makes sense to scale it alongside your user base. So changing things up again a little bit, talking about the Bitcoin ETFs and all the craziness around there. So we saw the approval of US's first Bitcoin spot ETFs. And they made a huge impact on the crypto space. We saw 11 approved with the SEC approval, and now we see many companies vying for Ethereum ETFs. So give us a little bit of a take on what this means for the industry and what it means for Bitget.
First of all, I want to clarify. What's approved recently, I think 10th or 11th of January this year, it was Bitcoin spot ETF. There has been Bitcoin futures ETF and Ethereum futures ETF in the US market already. And also Bitcoin spot ETF exists in some other markets such as Canada for like a year or so. But US market is still the largest economy, especially when it goes to financial trading. So the approval of spot Bitcoin ETF in the US market by SEC represents a significant milestone for the cryptocurrency industry. And we have already seen that trend, right? Like I think since the November, when Bitcoin was probably traded at around 40,000 ish, and it goes to where it is today. It's largely because of the expectation of the Bitcoin spot ETF being approved, and then it's approved, and then lots of money coming in, such as the big Wall Street wealth management firms such as BlackRock, Fidelity, Wisdom, Bitwise, and what else? Franklin. All those firms, they have a big customer base that they are looking at, like institutional investors, retail investors, high net worth individuals, endowment funds, etc. They can invest in ETFs or invest in Bitcoin through ETFs by them. And I also just heard, like I think 2 or 3 days ago, I read from news that it's for Bank of America and some other commercial banks. They are issuing or they are providing ETFs for their users, partnering with some of those firms that we talked about earlier. So the introduction of spot Bitcoin ETF have this profound impact. First of all, the Bitcoin price, basically their money inflow, right, coming in to Bitcoin. Previously, it was really hard for them to buy Bitcoin, even if they think it's a valuable asset. At least in my opinion, it's digital gold. But for those institutions, it's hard for them to buy. Right now, they can do it. And another thing that I think drives, probably they kind of have like mutual effect to each other, but generally have a very strong effect on Bitcoin price in general, cryptocurrency price in general, which is when does the Fed Reserve start to cut their interest rate? I think this affect all the investment landscape at large, not just cryptocurrency, but also equity and bond market and many other financial markets or global market as well. But the changes in the interest rate will alter investors' appetite for more risky assets. Basically, when interest rate goes down, bond market becomes less attractive, and equity market or many slightly riskier assets classes, including cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, are becoming more attractive comparing to other investments. That's probably the general effect.
Yeah, absolutely. And you also mentioned, like, what are your thoughts on the Ethereum ETFs that are pending currently, and how do you think that will affect the space?
So I had discussion with our analyst. I think our analyst said the success or approve or not approve, in their opinion, it's a 50-50 ratio. In my opinion, but it's personal opinion, no financial advice, I think it's probably like 70-30 ratio, meaning I think 70% of the possibility that the Ethereum spot ETF will be approved. Why? First of all, there are lots of ambiguity around whether Ethereum is considered as a security or commodity. I think until today, SEC and CFTC have never given us a very clear, I think CFTC said it's a commodity because they regulate commodity. And then SEC chairperson Gary Gensler, who also happens to be a professor at my school, MIT Sloan, before joining SEC. And he has been very ambiguous on this question of whether Ethereum and its stablecoin, which is WETH, are securities or not. To tell you more about Gary's point of view. So he had previously indicated that all the cryptocurrencies other than Bitcoin are considered as securities. But also in a later hearing, he also refrained from providing a clear statement on whether Ethereum is a security or not. If you look at that hearing, I think that was later last year, he was basically just mingling around, not giving a clear answer. And that adds into the ambiguity. And especially the SEC make lots of like very important decision here. But another thing that we look at is Grayscale's lawsuit. Basically, it played a crucial role in the approval of Bitcoin spot ETF, but its relevance may not be as significant for Ethereum, and that's why people think the Ethereum spot ETF may not be approved because Grayscale's case, it's mainly Bitcoin. And I think so far, the Ethereum ETF has not been approved nor rejected. So we will want to see, more negotiations and submission of various documents for the Ethereum ETF. I think some of the previous players, such as BlackRock, they've already applied for the Ethereum spot ETF. Whether it's going to approved or not, it depends. And why I think it's 70% rather than 50%, where is that 20% discrepancy coming from? I think another argument for me is like spot ETF is related to futures ETF. The fact that Bitcoin and Ethereum futures ETF have existed for a while already. And if you only have futures ETF but not spot ETF for example, Ethereum, that there can be a discrepancy in terms of their price. And it just doesn't make sense in many people's point of view. So I do think it's a higher chance that Ethereum spot ETF is approved than it is not.
So have you noticed in terms of any changes in trading volume or trading patterns on BitGet since the approval of those Bitcoin ETFs? And have you noticed any changes in investor behavior since then?
Mm-hmm. So there is lots of increase in trading volume across various cryptocurrencies, and that reflect a more diversified investors coming into our platform. Also, in terms of trading pattern, we also see investors displaying a greater inclination towards short-term trading strategies in response to the evolving market dynamics post that approval. Another thing is we see a growing confidence among consumers, especially when it goes to Bitcoin purchases, because again, the I guess spot ETFs approval, Bitcoin spot ETFs approval means at least government or like SEC see Bitcoin as a legitimate and confident asset, as at least as an investment asset, whether it's a currency alike or not. I think that remains argument, or people have different view. But at least it's an investment asset and it's recognized to be. So lots of interest and adoption among our retail and institutional investors. But I also want to highlight that actually the spot ETFs and exchanges like us, we are sort of serving different customers. Spot ETFs are more for especially the US-based investors. But for us, it's more global. And people are probably trading more altcoins as well, where we provide about 700 cryptocurrencies around the world. They come from various sectors: AI, DePIN, RWAs, DeFi, Layer 2s, mainnets. Basically, we want to, and meme coin, yeah. So different altcoins. But spot ETF is only about Bitcoin. So it depends on which jurisdiction you are in, because for exchanges, we don't serve certain jurisdictions or geographies. And again, the user behavior kind of not very similar. Like exchange, we're looking at a customer base. And then for the spot ETFs and Fidelity, BlackRock, they are looking at likely another exchange, another user base. There are different overlaps. They are all interested in cryptocurrency in a way, whether it as an asset allocation tool or whether for speculation or whether they are like true believer in the space, but there are also big differences.
You mentioned there's several different categories of coins that you guys offer. So are consumers tending to favor Bitcoin more than before the ETFs, or do you find that it's fairly similar, or people more focused on some of the other altcoins and things that you mentioned there?
Mm-hmm. I feel it's not big different. If you look at the online trading volume, Bitcoin still takes about 50% of all the market cap. And in terms of trading activities, recently lots of trading are happening around Bitcoin again because there's Bitcoin halving, upcoming halving in April. There was the ETF approval in January. So since November until now, I think people are generally more interested in Bitcoin. But then here comes the question, like Ethereum is also going to have their Duncan upgrade actually just in a week time, probably just like exactly a week. I think it was scheduled on 13th of March. So once the Duncan upgrade, let's see whether it's going to be very successful or it's going to be a smooth upgrade. But once that's finished, there are so many layer twos coming up, and that could potentially mean Ethereum's price, like people have a shift from trading Bitcoin to trading Ethereum. I talked about this on a CoinDesk TV interview in January because at that time my point of view was I think we will see a shift from Bitcoin trading to Ethereum trading around March, April-ish. And right now it's exactly the time. So let's see. Of course, there are also controversies or different arguments around whether the layer twos are building their own ecosystem or they are really empowering the Ethereum price per se, because many of the layer twos, they have their own gas fee rather than pay all the gas fee in Ethereum. Yeah. But anyway, like even today, I think I was trying to transfer some money to a online on-chain wallet addresses, and I just saw the gas fee on Ethereum on ERC20 today is extremely high. So I decided to do it later and see whether that gas fee goes down. But basically, Ethereum Cancun upgrade is something that we are looking into. And I think there are potentially opportunities as well.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of the significance of the Bitcoin ETF approval, from Bitget's side, do you notice a big difference in the industry perception, or is it too early to recognize any significant changes yet?
We don't see significant change, but we do see some new era or some new sector coming up. For example, Bitcoin ecosystem. So actually, I was just looking at this paper. It was in Chinese, but basically it says Bitcoin ecosystem, the engine for the next bull market. I think we have this research report by our research team, and it's also in many languages, especially in English, Chinese as well. But we are looking at different sectors, but Bitcoin ecosystem has been a popular one. I think in December there were inscriptions, and right now there were lots of shifts around the Bitcoin layer twos, which I think is interesting, and that's why I'm also studying in order to be really up to date. But basically, I think Bitcoin ecosystem, that's a new sector that's emerging due to the blossom of Bitcoin. Another sector that I'm recently very interested in is DePIN, because in DePIN sectors, basically DePIN means decentralized physical infrastructure network. DEPIN. So this means the real world assets, for example, Filecoin, Helium, Mobile, Demo, Natix, IOTX. These are some DePIN examples. And the reason I'm interested is because I think in 24, 25, we are at a stage that all the cryptocurrency should be more used, not just for financial purposes, not just for speculation and trading, but for some real world applications. And DePIN, and with the AI functioning in, I think that's exactly where we can see many interesting projects coming up that really impact our daily life. For example, Demo, Natix, what they do is so-called drive to earn. If you have, for example, a Tesla, you can use their app, and whenever you drive, you can earn their token. Of course, there are much more utilities and real world case scenarios than just drive to earn. But that's a great example where people get to really experience the application of cryptocurrency or blockchain technology in general.
It's amazing to see all of the innovation that's happening. It seems like a lot of new innovation and projects like you said, with DePIN and a lot of the new sort of spaces that are being created in blockchain. It's very amazing to see how quickly things are progressing. So those are all the questions that I had today. Is there any other initiatives or anything else that you'd like to cover or discuss regarding Bitget?
We have blockchain for her. We also have blockchain for youth. These are two so-called pro bono projects that we have for our industry.